Tallulah Farnsworth had just spent 10 days sleeping on waiting room chairs while her sister, Aloan, recovered from emergency surgery. 10 days of hospital cafeteria sandwiches and vending machine coffee. 10 days away from her husband of 15 years. And apparently that was all it took for him to decide their marriage was over. She sank down against the wall, her legs suddenly unable to support her weight. The security light in the hallway flickered, casting strange shadows across the floor. Tallulah scrolled through the rest of Alistair's messages with trembling fingers. I've moved your things to Unit 23B at West Side Storage. Keys under the mat. I pawned your jewelry. It wasn't worth much anyway. Sold the Toyota. You never drove it. Her grandmother's antique locket. Her wedding ring. The pearl earrings Alistair had given her on their 10th anniversary. All gone. The car she'd saved for years to buy. The one thing that was truly hers, sold without her knowledge or consent. Tallulah pressed her hand against the door that had once opened to the life they'd built together. Teaching positions at the same high school. Weekend trips to Lake Tahoe. Quiet evenings grading papers side by side. 15 years of memories now locked behind a door she couldn't open. Something cold and hard settled in her chest. In the silence of that hallway in Reno, Nevada, she made a decision. She would not scream. She would not beg. She would not call him 60 times in a row or camp outside the apartment. Instead, she typed back one message, "You'll regret this." Then she blocked his number. She found the storage key right where he said it would be and drove across town in a taxi. Unit 23B was small and dusty, containing nothing but a few cardboard boxes and garbage bags. Her books, her clothes, some kitchen utensils he didn't want. 15 years of marriage reduced to less than 100 cubic feet of discarded items. That night she stayed at a cheap motel near the hospital so she could visit Aloan in the morning. As she lay on the scratchy bedspread, staring at the water stains on the ceiling, Tallulah realized something that should have terrified her but instead felt strangely liberating. She had nothing left to lose. She never expected to be starting over again, but life has a way of surprising you. Sometimes the surprise is a knife in the back. Tallulah and Alistair met at a teachers' conference in Sacramento 20 years ago. He taught physical education while she taught art. They bonded over their shared frustration with budget cuts and administrators who didn't understand the importance of creative expression in education. Alistair was charming back then. The kind of person who remembered everyone's name and never forgot a birthday. The kind of person who brought her coffee every morning just the way she liked it and helped her hang student artwork before school exhibitions. The kind of person she thought would never abandon her. Their marriage wasn't perfect. Who's this? They'd been going through a rough patch ever since Alistair didn't get the athletic director position he'd been eyeing. He became withdrawn, spending more time at the gym and less time with her. Tallulah suggested therapy, but he dismissed the idea, saying they just needed time to figure things out. Then Aloan's appendix ruptured and everything changed. Her sister had no one else. Their parents were gone, and she'd never married. Tallulah couldn't leave her alone in that hospital, fighting for her life. She thought Alistair understood that. She thought 15 years of marriage had earned her at least that much trust. She was wrong. The morning after she found herself locked out, Tallulah sat in Aloan's hospital room, trying to keep her voice steady as she told her what happened. "That absolute bastard," Aloan whispered, her face still pale from surgery. "I'll kill him." "No," Tallulah said, surprising herself with how calm she felt. "You need to focus on getting better. I'll figure this out. Where will you go? What will you do?" The monitors tracking Aloan's heart rate beeped faster, reflecting her distress. Tallulah took her hand, feeling oddly protective despite being the one whose life had just imploded. "I've got some savings. Not much, but enough to rent a small place for a few months. And I've been thinking about that arts administration program at the university. Maybe it's time I finally applied." "Tally," Aloan said, using her childhood nickname, "You don't have to pretend with me. It's okay to fall apart." Tallulah looked out the window at the Sierra Nevada mountains in the distance, their peaks dusted with early snow. "I'm not pretending," she said. "I'm just done wasting time on someone who could throw away 15 years so easily." That evening, she found a small studio apartment she could afford on her teacher's salary. It was close to the school where she taught and had just enough room for her reduced belongings. As she unpacked her few remaining possessions, she discovered something Alastair had overlooked: her portfolio of digital artwork, backed up on an external hard drive. 3 months after Alastair changed the locks, Tallulah received divorce papers in the mail. He'd cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for their separation. She almost laughed at the clinical term for what had happened. Irreconcilable differences didn't quite capture the magnitude of coming home to find yourself homeless, your possessions sold, your marriage over via text message. The legal document listed their shared assets. Alastair had claimed everything of value: the apartment, the furniture, their joint savings account. He'd even taken half her retirement fund. According to his lawyer, she was entitled to nothing else since she had abandoned the marriage by staying with her sister during her health crisis. Tallulah sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the papers until the words blurred. The pain she'd been holding at bay threatened to overwhelm her. For a moment, she considered calling Alastair, demanding an explanation, fighting for what was rightfully hers. Then her phone buzzed with a notification, an email from the university. She'd been accepted into the Arts Administration program with a partial scholarship. Classes would start in 6 weeks. It felt like a sign. She could spend months, maybe years, fighting Alastair in court for material possessions, or she could invest that energy in rebuilding her life. Tallulah signed the divorce papers without contesting his claims, much to the frustration of the lawyer Aloan had insisted she consult. "He's walking away with everything," the attorney warned. "You're entitled to much more than this." "I know what I'm entitled to," she replied. "And I'll get it back my own way." That night, she called her principal and resigned from her teaching position, effective at the end of the semester. 20 years in the public school system ended with a 10-minute conversation. She felt a momentary pang of regret for the students she'd leave behind, but she knew this was necessary. She couldn't risk running into Alastair in the faculty lounge or the parking lot. She couldn't teach in a place where people would whisper about her failed marriage. When she told Aloan her decision, she was skeptical. "You're letting him win," she argued. "That school was your life before him." "That's the problem," Tallulah said. "Everything in Reno reminds me of Alastair. The school, our favorite restaurants, the park where we used to walk on Sunday mornings. I need a clean break." "And then what?" Aloan asked. "You'll get your degree." And Tallulah showed her the digital art portfolio she'd been working on. Illustrations, animations, and interactive designs she'd created over the years as a hobby. There are art therapy programs around the country using digital tools to help people process trauma, she explained. "I've been researching them. With my teaching background and this degree, I could develop something similar." Aloan studied her work, her expression softening. "These are beautiful, Tally, but art therapy programs take years to establish and you need to eat in the meantime." "I've applied for a night job at the university library," Tallulah said. "Between that and my scholarship, I'll manage." "I have to try, Ellie. I need something that's completely mine." As she left her sister's house that evening, the winter sun setting behind the mountains, Tallulah felt the first stirrings of something she hadn't experienced since finding that new lock on her apartment door: hope. Her new life developed a rhythm. Days in class, evenings at the library, late nights working on her portfolio. She barely had time to think about Alastair or what she'd lost, which was exactly what she needed. 6 months into the program, she was approached by Professor Wyndham after her grant writing seminar. She was a formidable woman in her 60s with silver hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to look straight through you. Your project proposal was exceptional, she said, her tone matter of fact. The digital art therapy concept has potential. Thank you, Tallulah replied, trying not to show how much her approval meant to her. There's a summer fellowship available through the Carson Foundation. It provides funding for innovative arts initiatives with social impact. She handed Tallulah a brochure. The deadline is next week. I suggest you apply. That night, Tallulah stayed up until dawn refining her proposal. An accessible digital art therapy program designed for people experiencing major life transitions, divorce, bereavement, illness. Users would move through guided creative exercises that helped them process their emotions through visual expression. She called it Canvas, Art Therapy Reimagined. 2 months later, she received the fellowship. It wasn't life-changing money, just £15,000, but it was enough to develop a pilot version of the program. She hired a programmer from the computer science department to help build the platform and spent every free moment creating content. By the time she graduated with her master's degree, Canvas was ready for limited release. They invited 50 participants to test the program: cancer patients, recently divorced individuals, people who had lost loved ones. Their feedback was overwhelmingly positive. For the first time, I could express what I was feeling without having to find the words, wrote one participant. I look forward to my Canvas time every evening, wrote another. It's helping me rebuild myself. Tallulah secured a small office space in downtown Reno with the last of her fellowship funds. It wasn't much, just a desk, a computer, and a view of the city where her old life had unraveled, but it was hers. She launched Canvas officially on the 1-year anniversary of the day Alistair had changed the locks. The first month brought 30 subscribers. The second month, 50. By the third month, they had over 100 people using the platform regularly. It wasn't enough to support her financially. She still worked at the university library 4 nights a week, but it was growing. Then came the email that changed everything. Miss Farnsworth, I'm a producer with National Morning. One of our staff members has been using your Canvas program to cope with her mother's cancer diagnosis, and she shared her experience with our team. We're interested in featuring Canvas in our Innovations in Mental Health segment. Would you be available for an interview? Her hands shook as she read the email. National Morning was watched by millions of people across the country. This kind of exposure could transform Canvas from a struggling startup to a recognized brand overnight. She immediately called Aloan. This is it, her sister said, her voice vibrating with excitement. This is how you show Alistair what he threw away. Tallulah paused, realizing something important. I haven't thought about Alistair in months, she said slowly. This isn't about him anymore. This is about what I've created. And it was true. Somewhere along the way, in the late nights and early mornings, in the code reviews and content creation, in the feedback sessions and grant applications, she had stopped defining herself by what she'd lost. She had become someone new, someone she liked better than the woman who had been so devastated in that hallway. The day before the interview was scheduled to air, Tallulah received an unexpected visitor at her small office. Lydia, her former colleague from the high school art department, stood in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. I hope you don't mind me stopping by, she said. I saw the promos for your interview tomorrow, and, well, I thought you should know. Alistair's been fired. Lydia perched on the edge of the chair across from Tallulah's desk, clearly uncomfortable with her role as messenger. He's been selling equipment from the athletic department, she explained. Weights, uniforms, even electronics from the coach's office. The new athletic director noticed the discrepancies in the inventory and started investigating. They found receipts from pawn shops all over town. Tallulah felt an odd detachment as she processed this information. How long had it been going on? Over 2 years, apparently. It started small, but lately. She hesitated. Things haven't been going well for him since you left. He's been drinking a lot, missing classes. The administration was already on the verge of disciplinary action when this came to light. 2 years. That timeline wasn't lost on Tallulah. Alistair's theft had started around the same time he'd begun withdrawing from their marriage, long before Alohan's emergency or the locked apartment door. There's more, Lydia said, her voice dropping. The car. Your Toyota. The police are investigating the sale. Apparently Alistair forged your signature on the title transfer. The new owner tried to register it, and the DMV flagged it. Tallulah thought about the car she'd saved for years to buy, the car Alistair had sold without her knowledge or consent. The car whose loss had symbolized the complete dismantling of her independence. Will they press charges? She asked. It's a felony, Tally. Title fraud, forgery. They're serious crimes. He could face jail time. She should have felt vindicated. Wasn't this what she'd promised when she texted, "You'll regret this"? But instead, she felt hollowed out. The man Lydia described, drinking, stealing, forging documents, was a stranger to her. After Lydia left, Tallulah sat in her quiet office, watching the sun set over the mountains. Her interview was scheduled for 7 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, 4 a.m. in Nevada. She should have been reviewing her talking points, preparing for questions. Instead, she was thinking about Alistair, trying to reconcile the man she'd married with the person he'd become. Her phone buzzed with an incoming call. The number was unfamiliar, but the Reno area code told her enough. She answered without speaking. Tallulah. Alistair's voice was rougher than she remembered, with an edge of desperation. Please don't hang up. She remained silent. I saw the promo for your interview. You look really good. I'm happy for you. Still, she said nothing. I know you know about the school, about the car. I messed up, Tully. I messed everything up. His voice broke. I've been trying to call you for months, for over a year. 365 calls. You never answered. She hadn't known about the calls. She'd blocked his number that night in the hallway and never unblocked it. Whatever messages he'd sent had disappeared into the digital void. Say something, please. Finally, she spoke. What do you want, Alistair? I want to apologize. I want to explain. I don't need your explanation, she said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. Whatever you did, whatever your reasons were, it doesn't matter anymore. Tally, no. No, she said firmly. You don't get to call me that. You don't get to pretend we're still close. You threw me away like I meant nothing. You sold my possessions. You locked me out of my own home. I was desperate, he whispered. I had gambling debts. I was scared and stupid and... Stop, she interrupted. I'm not interested in your excuses. You made your choices. Now you're facing the consequences. There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice was hollow. The police want me to turn myself in tomorrow. Then that's what you should do. Will you be back from New York by then? Could we meet just once? Tallulah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of their shared history pressing down on her. 15 years of marriage, the good days and bad, the life they'd built, and the way it had ended. No, she said finally. I don't think that would be helpful for either of us. She ended the call before he could respond, then turned off her phone completely. She had an early flight to catch and a new future to embrace. Alistair belonged to her past. The National Morning Studio was a whirlwind of activity. Production assistants with headsets rushed past. Camera operators adjusted equipment. And makeup artists fussed over the hosts and guests. In the green room, Tallulah sipped water and tried to calm her nerves. 5 minutes, Miss Farnsworth, a young woman with a clipboard, informed her. She nodded, smoothing the sleeves of her blue blazer, the most professional item in her limited wardrobe. Beneath the jacket, her heart hammered against her ribs. You're going to be great, the makeup artist assured her as she applied a final touch of powder. Just remember to look at Jessica, not the camera. Jessica Chun, the host of the innovation segment, had a reputation for thoughtful interviews. Still, Tallulah ran through potential questions in her mind, rehearsing answers about Canvas, its development, and its impact. What she wasn't prepared for was Jessica's first question after the cameras started rolling. Tallulah, Canvas was born from your own experience with loss and transition. Can you tell us about that journey? Tallulah froze momentarily. In all their pre-interview communications, they'd focused on the program itself, not her personal history. But as she looked into Jessica's kind eyes, she realized this was an opportunity to reach people who might be sitting where she had been, hollow and hurting, needing a way forward. 2 years ago, she began, I came home to find the locks changed on my apartment door. My husband had ended our 15-year marriage via text message, sold my car, and pawned my jewelry. She smiled slightly, aware of the camera, but speaking directly to Jessica. It was disorienting, to say the least. Jessica's expression was perfectly balanced between empathy and professional interest. How did you move from that moment of crisis to creating Canvas? Tallulah explained her journey, the arts administration program, the fellowship, the late nights developing content. As she spoke, she realized how far she'd come from that night in the hallway. Canvas isn't just about processing grief or trauma, she concluded. It's about reclaiming your narrative, finding beauty and meaning in the midst of chaos. It's about rebuilding. The interview flew by. They discussed the scientific foundations of art therapy, demonstrated how the program worked, and shared testimonials from users. Before she knew it, Jessica was wrapping up the segment. Canvas is currently available for individual subscribers, but you have bigger plans, correct? Tallulah nodded. We're launching an institutional platform next month for hospitals, counseling centers, and schools. We've already partnered with 3 major healthcare networks to offer Canvas to their patients. Impressive growth for a program that began as a personal healing journey. Thank you for sharing your story with us today, Tallulah. As the cameras stopped rolling, Jessica leaned over. That was fantastic. You're a natural. Back in the green room, Tallulah checked her phone. It had been less than 5 minutes since the segment aired, but her inbox was already filling with messages. The Canvas website had crashed from the traffic surge. Her personal email contained interview requests from 3 other news outlets and 14 partnership inquiries from healthcare providers. Among them was a message with the subject line, I saw you on TV. It was from Alistair. Her finger hovered over the delete button, but something made her open it. I'm turning myself into the police this morning. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I truly am sorry, and seeing you succeed is the one bright spot in all of this. You deserve every good thing that's coming your way. Goodbye, Tallulah. She closed the email without responding. Whatever closure Alistair needed, he would have to find it without her help. She had a crashed website to fix, interviews to schedule, and partnerships to evaluate. She had a life to live, one that no longer revolved around the man who had once thought he could discard her. 2 years after the national morning interview, Canvas had become more successful than Tallulah ever imagined. They had offices in Reno and San Francisco, a team of 20 employees, and over 1.5 million users worldwide. Their institutional platform was being used in hospitals across the country, and they'd recently launched a specialized program for veterans with PTSD. She was in New York again, this time to accept an award at the Digital Health Innovation Gala. The event was being held at an elegant hotel ballroom filled with healthcare executives, tech entrepreneurs, and investors. As she sat at her table, watching other honorees give their speeches, she felt a mixture of pride and disbelief. How had the broken woman in that hallway transformed into this person, the founder and CEO of a thriving company about to receive recognition from industry leaders? And now, announced the host, the Impact Award for Mental Health Innovation goes to Tallulah Farnsworth, creator of Canvas. The applause was thunderous as she made her way to the stage. From the podium, she could see hundreds of faces looking back at her, including Barnaby, her partner of 8 months, who was beaming from their table. "Thank you," she began, her voice steady and clear. "Canvas was born from necessity. When my life fell apart, I needed a way to put the pieces back together. What I discovered was that creativity isn't just an escape, it's a pathway to healing." As she continued her speech, something caught her eye at the back of the room. A familiar figure standing near the exit, watching intently. Alistair, older, thinner, his once confident posture now slightly hunched. She didn't falter. She didn't acknowledge him. She simply continued speaking about Canvas, about their vision for the future, about the millions of people they hoped to help. "In closing, I'd like to share something a user wrote to me recently. Canvas helped me realize that my story didn't end with my loss. It was just the beginning of a new chapter. That's what I hope Canvas offers to everyone who uses it. Not just healing, but the chance to rewrite their story." The audience rose in a standing ovation. From the corner of her eye, she saw Alistair slip out the door, disappearing as quietly as he had appeared. After the ceremony, Barnaby and Tallulah were mingling with guests when an event coordinator approached her. "Miss Farnsworth, there's someone who would like to speak with you privately. He says it's important." She knew who it was before the coordinator described him. "Tell him I'll meet him in the lobby in 5 minutes." Barnaby looked concerned. "Everything okay?" "It's fine," she assured him. "Just some unfinished business." "I won't be long." Alistair was sitting on a bench near the hotel's grand entrance, looking out of place in his worn suit among the polished marble and crystal chandeliers. He stood when he saw her approach. "Congratulations," he said. "I read about the award in the business section. I hope you don't mind that I came." "How did you get in?" she asked. "I told them I was with Oak Ridge Health. They're one of your partners, right?" A ghost of his old smile appeared. "I've been following your success." Tallulah felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity, just a profound neutrality, as if she were speaking to a stranger who happened to share some of her memories. "I served 14 months, he said when she didn't respond. "Got out early for good behavior. I'm working construction now. It's honest work." "I'm glad to hear that," she said. And she meant it. She didn't wish him ill. She just didn't wish him anything at all. "I keep thinking about what I threw away," he continued. "Not just our marriage, but the person you were becoming. I could have been part of this." He gestured vaguely toward the ballroom. "No," she said gently. "You couldn't have. This happened because you left." His face registered surprise, then understanding. Canvas, her success, her new life, none of it would have existed if he hadn't locked her out that night. "I should go," she said. "My partner is waiting." "You're happy?" he asked, the question barely audible. Tallulah looked back toward the ballroom, where Barnaby was chatting with colleagues, where her awards sat gleaming on their table, where her future continued to unfold. "Yes," she said. "I am." As she walked away, she heard Alistair call after her. "Tallulah." She turned. "You were right," he said. "I regret it every day." She nodded once, acknowledging his words without responding to them. Then she returned to the celebration, to the life she had built from the ground up, a life that was finally, completely her own. Looking back at her journey from that desperate night in the hallway to becoming the founder of a successful company, Tallulah realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't about making someone else suffer. It's about ensuring they can see exactly what they lost. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.